Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to the 100th episode of Created for More, the podcast. Oh my goodness. We started at the bottom, but look at us now. I am super excited. My joy is palpable. Like you can actually feel it, you can touch it. 100 episodes, 100 mind-blowing conversations, and I have to say massive thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for logging in. Thank you for sharing the podcast. Thank you for just being a part of this community. It has meant so much. I've enjoyed reading every kind review, every kind comment, every love, every well wish that you sent through, and I just want to say a massive thank you. This is as much a celebration of you as it is of the podcast. So thank you so much for being part of this community. And for the 100th episode, I couldn't forehand now. Never. I've gone to bring you the guest of all guests, and I cannot wait to unveil. You have to say, yes, I want it. I can hear you in your kitchens, in your cars. I want you to say, yes, Tomba, tell us. Well, today's guest is an absolute privilege. And I say it from the innermost recesses of my heart. I am so grateful for this man that I call, mentor, I call coach, I just call teacher, I call inspirational, I call everything that I am doing now. I am telling you, every single thing that I'm doing now that is purpose related has its roots in conversations with this man. So I want you to get ready. I want you to sit down. I want you to grab your coffee. I want you to grab your journals. Trust me when I say that. Grab your journals, because the amount of nuggets and life-changing insights that you are going to get today will blow your mind away. It will revolutionarily transform everything that you know. So sit back and let me introduce my guest. So today I have Fela Durotoye, who is an executive coach. He's a leadership expert. He's a global builder. He's the founder and CEO of the Gemstone Group, the Gemstone Leadership Network, and the Gemstone Nation Builders Foundation. Fela, I call him FD, my FD to be specific. My FD is highly regarded as one of Africa's leading executive coaches, and he's an official member of the Forbes Coaches Council, which is an invitation-only community for senior level executives in the global coaching industry. He's also an alumnus of the Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute. FD, I could go on and on. Like, if we did that if I just read your bio, first of all, it would be so self-serving, because I just, just reading about you is already inspirational in itself. But we have to get into this podcast. So, FD, I want to first and foremost, before you even say a word, reiterate just how much of an impact that you have had in my life. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being true to the calling upon your life. And thank you for your commitment to raising leaders like myself. Thank you so much, FD, for being here.
Tombra, I wish that you should allow me to do the thanks, because and if I started just the thanks alone, we would have an entire podcast. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for helping people, in a sense, live not just life, but life abundantly. Because the difference between life and an abundant life is more. That's where it is. And when we recognize that we weren't just created to exist, we were created to live abundantly, then you would realize that you are helping people fulfill purpose just by the Created for More, the podcast. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come with you on this journey of greatness that you've been walking on, and unleashing the greatness that other people carry. Thank you, Tonga. Thank you. I can go on and on and on. Thank you for your consistency. Thank you for not giving up when it was tough. Thank you for not giving up when it was hard. Thank you for going past the second and the third, and maybe the seventh, and then the 10th, and then maybe about when it started getting, to 37th and 38th, and the numbers didn't even make sense, but you kept going. And now it's 100, and this is a huge milestone. So I say congratulations.
Thank you so much, MD. Oh, thank you so much, MD. I am absolutely torn. I don't even know where to start. I feel like a kid in a candy store because I absolutely love conversations. And when it's conversation with someone I love, that's like exponential love. It's a cocktail of love.
The feeling is the same.
So, FD, I want you to introduce yourself, right? Peradventure, there's someone listening who is crazy enough, who has been hiding under a rock somewhere, who doesn't know you for some reason, which is absurd. I would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell them, who are you? What is the essence of Fela Durotoye?
Okay, so let me start by saying you don't need to live under a rock not to know. I'm sometimes extremely kind. Well, so I would say this. There are many ways in which I can define myself, but I'll tell you a quick story, and then I'll end up with my official definition, some of which you have said. But a few years ago, I'd just come back from running a leadership training for one of Nigeria's leading banks. And at this time, maybe I was already like 7 or 8 years into my consulting practice at that time. So this must have been sometime around 2006, 2007. And I remember just, coming, feeling quite exhausted and just, coming in the evening, been training all day. And then I sit down to just catch up on what's been going on, what's happening on CNN. And it's one of those times when there was something that was exciting going on. I'm not sure whether it was Obama or one of those things that was, running for office, 2007. And I heard very clearly in my spirit, my son, do you know who you are? So I thought I could recognize that it was the voice of God, the Spirit of God speaking to me. Now, I also knew at that time that, when God asks you a question, he's omniscient. He knows all things. So he's not asking you for discovery. He's asking you to unveil to you what it is that he's saying. And so I said, who am I, Lord? And he said to me, you are a platform. People will stand on you and be seen from afar. So I'm like, what? Platform? People will stand on me? Okay, no problem. So I kind of just tuned out and zoned into the campaign things that were happening at that time, and just trying to catch up with what is Obama saying, what's he doing, where is he? And then at about 9 o'clock, I knew I had to go to bed because the training was about a 4-day training, so I needed to catch up so that I could get up early. But then the next thing I heard about 9 o'clock was, my son, do you know who you are? Now, I knew that he knew I heard him the first time. So he wasn't asking whether I heard him. So I said, who am I, Lord? He said, you're a ladder. People will climb on you and they will get to higher heights. And that wasn't really very comfortable for me because the first time he said, people will stand on me, they will be seen. Then people will climb on me and they will get to higher heights. So kind of just, and I went to bed. I wasn't happy. At about 3:20 in the morning, I felt a smack on the side of my body. And I heard, my son, do you know who you are? Now, with an attitude, I was like, who am I, Lord? Like, who am I this time? And he said to me, you are a junction. He said, you are a junction. People will come up by you, across you, and move onto their path of greatness. Now, by this time, I was exasperated. I felt like, you said people will stand on me. I didn't say anything. You said people will climb on me. I didn't say anything. And now you're saying people will pass by me. So I asked him, I said, Lord, what is my sin? what did I do? And he
Why
said, what do
why
you
am I
mean?
not the one? Yeah.
What did I do wrong? Like, he said, what do you mean? I said, you said I am a ladder. I mean, people will climb on me. I'm a platform. People will
Mhm.
stand on me. Now you're saying people will pass by me. What did I do wrong? And he said, clearly you don't understand. I said, yes. He says, what? So if I wanted people to be seen from afar, what do I do to the platform they're standing on? I said, well, you would raise that platform. He says, yes. So I would raise you so that others can be seen. Ah, okay. He said, have you ever seen anybody climb the ladder to the tip of the ladder? Not to the tip of the ladder,
Not
because
to
the
the
ladder is
tip
usually
because yeah.
resting on the wall. He said, so if the people need to go higher, what do I do to the ladder? He says, I would stretch it. So I would stretch you to go further so that others can go further. I was like, okay. And then I said, okay, so what about this junction thing? He says, would you rather write a book that sells 1 million copies? Or would you rather have 1,000 great leaders write books that sell 1 million copies each? And in each and every one of them, the people would say, what I'm doing today was because I encountered Jesus.
Testimony.
And 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 I laughed about it and I said, depends on who's getting the royalties. And the voice just laughed and it departed. And in that instance, Tombra, I kind of like got to know who I was created to be.
Yeah.
That I am a builder of leaders. I am a builder of people. That my job is to help people become the very essence of who they were created to be and to become great at it. Not just to become good at it, not just to become successful at it, but to become great at it. That my job is not only to be able to build leaders, but to be able to make sure we build them so that they can live excellently and lead excellently in a way that will cause them to be able to build sustainably their nations. Because the human race is not a race between the Caucasian and the Asian, or the Black or the Hispanic. The human race is a relay race. And it's a race where one generation has to be able to run its race and hand over a better baton, which could be your nation, could be to the next generation, so that the next generation inherits a better nation than the one that you were born into. And so ultimately, I realized that the essence of my life was to raise leaders who will build the nations that they're living in. And so I am Fela Durotoye. I am an executive coach who helps leaders to be able to gain clarity, to be able to bring themselves into alignment, solve problems that have been long lasting for them, the most complex problems of their lives. I am there to be able to help them solve those problems, but to also be able to accomplish results, so excellent results and exponential growth in a way that builds institutions, in a way that builds nations, in a way that builds the next generation. So I build leaders that build nations. That's what I do.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So, FD, I want to track back to, because I believe that, childhood will often be the early signs, indicators of, who we become in life. So, who were you as a child? Have you always been so deep? Because, when you speak, there is a depth that is very uncommon. You speak like you're speaking to somebody's soul. you know, has this always been, have there always been footprints of this, even from as early as when you were a child?
Absolutely. I think that purpose and, the essence of everyone's being leaves clues, especially as you grow. And I remember that, again, I'm a storyteller. So one of the ways I always do everything I remember that, one day in 2006, my mom had passed and we were so there, first of all, I was born into a family of lecturers, right? My parents were both lecturers. There's a very interesting story around my birth, which I may not waste too much time, but essentially I was conceived in Canada and born in Ibadan, Nigeria, right? Because somewhere in between, whilst my parents were lecturers in the University of Toronto, My father had a dream whilst my mother was almost 7 months pregnant and said, listen, we have to take this one home. We have to take him home.
Wow.
And they hadn't done any tests to know whether it was a boy or a girl. And they already had a boy and a girl before then. So there was no way to tell whether it was a boy or girl. But my father had a dream. He was so convinced. And literally, he accepted, they both accepted an offer from University of Ibadan to come back. And I was born just before, as soon as they were getting back there. For many years, I despised my parents. I wasn't happy that they brought me back from Canada. But to cut the long story short, my parents were both lecturers. They were in University of Ibadan. And then the next year, so I was born in 1971. But most importantly, is just to say that I'm the third of three children, and I grew up on a university campus. Now, my mom passed on in 2006, and my brother, who was 4 years older than me, had come back for us to organize the funeral. And I remember that I had just, I was sending an invoice to a bank that it was our client that we had just run a training for. And my brother said, he looked at me, signing that invoice, and he said, life is not fair. So I thought he was talking about my mom, like, oh yeah, So it's like, man, I just wish that mom was here. This is now the time that we should be spoiling her with all the, And he said, no, I wasn't talking about mom. I was like, okay, what were you talking about? He said, we used to pay you to keep quiet when you were young. Now people are paying you to talk. I didn't see that coming. So in a way, you asked the question, was I always like this? I recall that there was a day that I was actually going to see my mom before then, and one of my teachers was on the road. I don't know why. His car must have broken down on the road or something happened. But as I was driving home, I saw him and I stopped, reversed and picked him up. And this was my primary school teacher. And he said to me, Durotoye, wow. Looking at the car and everything, you are doing well. Durotoye. So what do you do? What do you do? And I said, sir, I talk. And I actually used that because that gentleman, I remember one day he beat me. Because as usual, during lunch break, those, in school, I would sit down and I would be talking and students will gather and they will forget. We won't hear the bell when it rings to say, get in. And sometimes they will have to come and she said, you are listening to Durotoye again. Go inside. And so I didn't know. And one day the guy said, I told you, Oro, which means the word. Oro, it is word that will get you into trouble. And so when the man saw me that day and said, what do you do? And, as a speaker, as a teacher, as a counselor, as a coach, I said to him, I talk. And he said, wow. So have I left clues all my life? Yes. That there was always something in me that people wanted to hear. That there was something in me that people needed. And whatever it was, it always helped them to become better. And people used to ask me when I was on campus as a student about business. I'm saying people who are running business will be asking me that didn't have a business. And I didn't understand why. And in 2017 or 18, when I ran for the office of presidency in Nigeria, I remember one of my very best friends as a child came to me and said, I used to call you Duro for president. Remember I used to call you? And I said, yes, it's true. This was at the age of 12. He was calling me Duro for president at that time.
At the age of 12.
At the age of 12. At the age of 11. And he said to me, I knew you were going to do this. It's because you've always been a leader. So again, if you look back at children leave clues. And many times they might be excessive about it. They might not be tactical about it. They don't understand the purpose of what it is they're expressing, so they might not be effective in the use of it. But it's there. So I don't know which child you have the privilege of guiding and being a part of their journey. But pay attention. Children need clues. I did, and I didn't know.
You didn't know. FD, I would like for you to just speak to someone. This isn't where I wanted to go, but I just sense really, really strongly that someone is listening to your story right now and what you just talked about, clues and how everything was there in your childhood. And yeah, there's a pang of regret for them because possibly, they have had they were overwhelmed by that feeling of this is not really a gift. You talk too much. Can you stop? This adds no value to anyone. And possibly for them, they stopped. You didn't, but they stopped. And now
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Oh, I did. At some point in time in the course of my life, I actually became a very quiet person because I was told that I talk too much. I was told by some people that I trusted, even outside my immediate circle, my family circle, but in the extended, wider circle, they said my mouth was too sweet. And insinuating that, he embellishes his words. He's, if he's talking, everybody's there. His mouth is just too sweet. And I used to say, my mouth is sweet. I didn't know what to do about it. What does it mean? I'm not putting sugar in my mouth. I don't know what my mouth is sweet is. It's not my fault that my mouth is sweet. And I remember that when I got saved in 1997 at the age of 26, one of the first things I had to ask God when I began to build that sense of relationship with God, I asked him, why did you give me a sweet mouth? Why? And God said to me, I never gave you a sweet mouth. I said, you didn't? He said, no. He said, I gave you a sweet heart. And out of the heart, out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaks. He says, your words are seasoned with salt. It is grace I have put upon the thoughts of your heart that makes the words of your lips have so much power. And then I found it. I got, oh, wow. So now that means that, and this is the truth about it, is that everything you do let me put it this way, if you don't mind, let's back up a bit, and says there is a reason why you exist. That reason why you exist is the purpose for your life. In fact, the word life itself, L-I-F-E, it occurred to me one day, is living in full expression of the intention for your creation. That's what life is. L-I-F-E, living in full expression of the intention for your creation. Everything, everyone that was created with an intention in the heart of the Creator. And that intention is your purpose. And what happened is every creator created its creation to succeed in the thing that it created that creation to do. God did not make anything to fail. He couldn't. He made everything for the reason, but more importantly, equipped it. Let me say, designed it, equipped it, and empowered it to succeed at that thing. And one of the things that we were equipped and empowered with is our natural giftings. Right? It's our natural gifts, it's our personality, it's who we are, it's the things we do naturally that we don't even know why or how we got to do it. It's the things that people recognize in us. This thing is not common. This thing is not usual. That's the thing. Unfortunately, most times purpose is hidden in the place of discovery. And you have to go to your place of discovery to be able to find your purpose. Many times that's in the heart of the Creator itself. Now, let's be clear. If you don't know your purpose, why would anybody else know it? So you don't know why you are here, and therefore you can't know what you have been given to fulfill it. And the world doesn't know why you are here. They don't know what you've been given. So they are just responding and reacting to this thing, and that you're doing so excellently well. And they can't understand why. Why are you able to do it that I can't? I don't understand. Why do you speak and people listen to you and I talk and nobody really pays attention? I don't understand why. Why do you do it so effortlessly, and whenever you do it, time flies by? Why is it that every time you show up, people kind of like step aside and say, hey, Yes, in that thing that you do so excellent. Why is it that you have such great consuming passion about this thing and you don't even know where you got the passion for or why you have the passion? All of those confusing things are clues. But unfortunately, because you don't know how and they don't know how, what they do is they react to your clues and they say, look at you, you talk too much, you smile too much, you are too vain. Look at you,
Look
always
at
doing
you.
making your hair. Is it look at you? Always, why is it that look at you? And so that whole look at you, when you don't have it, when you haven't been to the place of discovery, you now begin to respond to it and you begin to shy away and you
You
begin
begin
to
to
come into
shine
yourself
and close up.
and you close up because you don't understand this thing. You don't know where you got it from. You don't know why you're so consumed by it. And that is okay. But let me tell you, there's nothing wrong with you. You were perfectly created for what you were perfectly created for. I'm going to say that again. You were perfectly created for what you were perfectly created for. Let me be clear. Life did not start with your parents. Life started before your parents were even born. Your life. And if you look in the guidebook, what I call the operation manual that the creator has, which is the scriptures for me,
Yeah.
one of the in the book of Jeremiah, God said to Jeremiah, and giving us all an idea of what he said: before I formed you in your mother's womb. He didn't say before your father's sperm formed you. He says, I formed you. Before I formed you in your mother's womb. He said, I knew you. He said, and then he started to say, I separated you, I anointed you to be. So, in a sense, you existed before you showed up in your mother's womb. You are not 50 years old. You are not 14 years old. You are not 35 years old. You are not 60 years old. You are 300 trillion years old, whatever it is. Because you already existed before the day that your dad and your mom came together in what should have been a sexual encounter. And then, no. That's only the day that you showed up in conception. And just the same way that we do something which is absolutely silly, that we start measuring someone's birthday from the day that the mother gave birth. But that wasn't the day they even got to the earth. I was conceived in Canada. For almost 7 months, I lived in Canada, in my mother's womb, but in Canada, drinking Canadian water, but in Canada. But nobody even acknowledges that time of my life, just like you are not even acknowledging the time of your life that you existed before you were formed. Everybody does it. So my point is this. My point is this. You were created for a purpose, which means purpose created you. It was the reason for your creation that led to your creation. It meant you were designed for purpose, empowered for purpose, equipped for purpose. But that was not enough. God gave life to you, but really to your purpose. And then he gave a body to your life. And then he gave breath to your body. Can I start that again, just quickly? Because I know that's,
Yes, please.
So God started the entire you process with a purpose in mind. And it was that purpose that led to your design. The reason for what God intended you to do, that's what led to your design. Whether you be tall, short, whatever it is, all the things that you will carry for eternity, your personality, your talents, your passion, all of those things, they were selected for you to succeed at what you were created to do. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, you already you had a job description. You were coming to the earth with an assignment. And God intended for you to succeed in that assignment so that his will for the earth will be fulfilled. So let me be clear. You cannot be your own purpose. You are too small to be your own purpose. You are a part of a larger picture, like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle is a part of a larger picture. You don't exist for yourself. You exist for the intention for which God created you. And it's a bigger intention than yours. And you were equipped for that. And
Mm.
so just to be able to help you understand that what you are carrying is for the world. And will the world know what it is? Maybe not. Until you discover what it is and why you are and
Mm.
what you're sent to do. And that's when you will start to put all of what you were given into
Into it.
harmonious use
Into
to
it.
create value and make
Mm.
the world a better place by making people better. The moment you are able to find that alignment, all of a sudden,
Mm.
now the world begins to make sense of the words that you speak. Nobody says to me, Fela, you speak too much anymore. Now
Mm.
they write checks for me.
Ah, love it.
Because I
Love
found out
it. Because you
why.
found it. Okay.
I found
So
out why.
what I hear is you have to come into an awareness.
Yes.
You have to then own it.
Yes.
And then the third thing is the stewardship of this purpose. So I would
Mm,
like for us to talk about it. Just
mm,
that process from you knowing that I speak, I talk, I talk a lot, going into your show, coming back again, owning it.
mm.
How do you steward it? How do you
Okay.
make your purpose, become what it is meant to be?
All right. Stewarding your gifts to fulfill purpose
Yes,
goes
yes.
through what I call 4 steps. And you've talked about it using the word awareness. If you don't mind, I would use D's.
Mm,
The first D is discovery,
mm,
and that's the place where you kind of like come into a sense of, okay, why am I here? Why do I do what I do so well? Why your why? So who am I? Why am I here? Where am I? What am I meant to be doing? What do I have that is meant to be able to solve problems for the world? What solution do I carry that the world needs? What things? Who can I help? So that whole discovery is the first step. And I love the way you said it, awareness. Yeah. The next step is you've got to develop those gifts that you have and begin to hone them, because your talent is God's gift to you. But the scripture says it is your gift that
mm.
will make
Make
room
room.
for you in
Mhm,
the presence. It is not God's gift that makes room for you, it is your gift, which
mm,
means you've got to develop God's gift in you until you have honed that
mm,
gift into something that can help you become a giver of
mm,
solutions, ideas. Do you understand? It is
mhm,
God's gift in you is your raw talent, but it's now up to you to develop it, to hone it, to learn about it, to research about it, to practice with it, to develop it, and then it becomes useful. It becomes a useful skill
mhm,
set. And now with that, the next thing is you've got to deploy it.
mhm,
So you discover, you develop, now you deploy. Deploy is the point at which you now begin to find a vehicle, some kind of product, some kind of platform with which you will be able to make the gifts that you have developed in you useful to the world. So today, you would notice that, we've got Created for More, the podcast.
mhm.
That is a platform for Tombra Nwoswagu to be able to deploy the gifts that she developed
Mm,
a while ago, that
mm,
she discovered some time ago. It may have been
mm.
when she was younger, it may not have been, it may have been only a few years ago that
Only a
she
few years ago.
discovered this gift. She may have been aware of it. She might have even been abused for it. But all of a sudden, she said, oh my wow, this is the reason. This is who I am. This is why I am. This is, oh my word, this is what I carry. Then she started to hone it. And as she started to hone it, then she said, okay, wow, I'm going to use the podcast platform to deploy my gift. And that gift was the gift of speaking, the gift of carrying a message, the gift of interviewing, the gift of you. Do you see all of that? And if you go and look at it, when she didn't even know why, she would interview people, she would ask questions, she would do this, she would do that. And people, she didn't know why. But now she's deploying it,
Mhm,
and now it's useful to you. And then they get into the last stage of stewarding your gift, which is deliver the purpose for which God created.
mm.
with it.
Love it.
So it's discovered, coming to an acute sense of awareness and ownership of, okay, understanding of, yes, this is who I am, this is why I am, this is what I'm carrying, this is what I'm meant to do with it, this is my assignment, this is where I'm sent for. And then being able to say, okay, if this is what I carry, then how do I develop it? And then you might find a course, you might do some research, you start to practice, you start to, and you start to invest in yourself, in your craft, in your skill. Then you now get to the point of deploying it, which is where you now develop a product, you develop a platform, you develop a thing that makes it connect with the world, and you can now use that as to create value for the world, and then you deliver on it. And I think that's if you ask me,
so
that's
good,
the process.
so good, FD. Thank you so much. So one of the things I know that I want to use the word messes up, and I'm using it very, very intentionally because I think it is very destructive, and messes up a lot of people in our generation. Is this sense, this need for validation when they are expressing their purpose? It almost feels like a gift is not really a gift, or a purpose is not really a purpose until someone else sees it and affirms it, right? I want to go to the example in the Bible where, David was on the backside of the wilderness, had the gift of leadership, had the gift of, might and strength and protector, but he was first doing it for just sheep. Before he got to the bigger stage, he had to have proven himself in this earlier stage that this is who I am. And he didn't have an audience, just had sheep. So what would you say to someone who is listening to this, who feels what I have is not good enough because perhaps they're in the proving stage where there isn't an audience, there's no validation, and because of that they feel it's not good enough. It's not. It can't be purpose because I don't have a waiting crowd.
Well, I would say you're blessed. Oh my God, that's the greatest thing that can happen to you. You are not good enough, and you will never be. Because if you were good enough, then there will be no need for more. You won't need to develop yourself. Right? What you must understand is that whilst you are not good enough for everything you need to do, you are good enough to do what you can.
Right? Thank you, sir.
Right? You're good enough for where you are. That's where you are, but you are not good enough for where you're going. So you have so much more to still develop. But don't worry about where you're going. Just take where you are today, and you're good enough for that place. You do what you can with it. And many times the truth is that you are sent not to everyone. You're sent to some people specifically. We talked a little bit about Jeremiah. It's very interesting that God said to Jeremiah, I am sending you to, not to. Somewhere in the course of the conversation with God, he said, I am sending you. And he told him who he was sending him to, not to. I mean, if you look in the scriptures again, you find, Paul was sent to the Gentiles, not to the Jews. When Paul went to the Jews, they despised him. They wanted to kill him. They had plans. They took an oath, until we kill him, we will not eat. What did he do? What did he ever do wrong? But he was sent to the Gentiles. When he gets to the Gentiles, they say, thank you for bringing us the gift of salvation. When he goes to the Jews, they say, because he wasn't sent to the Jews. Peter, on the other hand, was sent to the Jews. They loved him. They appreciated him. But when he goes to the Gentiles, he goes and starts talking to them. And then, and the guys are like, we don't understand. Why are you asking us to circumcise? And then Paul has to come and says, who bewitched you? Right? So everyone has a target audience that God had in mind for your gift. Not everyone will receive your gift. Not everyone would appreciate your gift. Not everyone needs your gift. Your job is to be able to find out who are the people that I was sent to. And most times, because your gift is a is a waiting solution. Waiting, WAITNG. They have been waiting for your solution. They have a need. Your gift is to meet a need. Your gift is to meet, is to meet an unmet desire, a desire that people have always had, something they wanted to do for a while, but they didn't know how. It's something that they've been hoping for, but they didn't know when. And all of a sudden, you show up as though you are an answer to prayer. For the people to whom you are sent, you are life. You are God. And if you go to the people that you are not sent to, you are extra. Because you are not the one with the gift that they are looking for. So you are just an extra. So there's this thing around saying, listen, don't go to the places where you are tolerated. Go to the places where your gift is celebrated. And many times, please understand, just the way your gift is always nurtured in the place of tolerance and then deployed to the place of celebration. So in my own home, they said my mouth was too sweet. In my own home, they said that I was talking too much. But when I get to the other side and I get to Guarantee Trust Bank and they give me a 30-minute opportunity to speak and I speak, they call me back and say, the people said they want more. Can you speak for an hour? And then I go back and then they said, the next class says they want more. Can you speak for half a day for us? And they are paying me more. And then I do half a day. And then they said, look, we don't know what it is, but do you mind starting this induction program and then closing the induction program? So you have 2 days. And then I said, okay, no problem. So now I take 2 days. Then said, look, you know what? We want to create a program just for you. And so can we do it as a 3-day program? And then we do 3-day programs. And then the people write at the end of the assessment, we want more. And then they turn it into a 4-day leadership program for bankers, which bankers will release its people to go and sit with one human being for 4 days. Well, that human being that was told that he talked too much found a purpose for his talking. So there's a point I'm making, which is to say, look, you are developing your gift.
You are.
And the humility that you carry today is required for the grace that you need to be able to develop that gift. So that humility is understanding that you are not all there is. You are not, it's okay. So feel that humility. You need it for the greatness that you're going to unveil and the way that the world will receive you. Always walk with that humility. God said to Saul through the mouth of Samuel, he said, when you were small in your own eyes, I helped you. When you were small, I'm asking you, may you never be big in your own eyes. May you always be small in your own eyes. May you never feel that sense of I am all sufficient. May you forever need the grace of God. May you always still have butterflies in your stomach every time you're going to speak, so that you can pray and say, God, help me. May you always, I know you are an excellent surgeon, but may you always still find the need to pray before you operate. May you always still find the need to be able to pray before you do your podcast, like Tombra and I prayed before her 100th podcast. 100 podcasts. She's still praying. She's still saying, I need help. So I want you to know you are not enough for all that you are meant to be, but you are more than enough for where you are right now.
For where you are. Oof. Love it. Start where you are. Start where you are. Absolutely love it. So FD, I'll tell you about the conversation I was having with my husband a few weeks back. We'd gone out and I'd just come back to the house. And I think I'm not really sure what it was. Either it was a podcast I wanted to record, or it was an IG live that I was doing, or it was something I was doing in relation to my purpose and, from a place of service. And my husband was like, but you're really, really tired. Why don't you just rest? And I looked at my husband in the face and I said to him, if I don't stand up and do that thing, what I was referring to, what I wanted to do, if I don't stand up, let's just call it the podcast. If I don't stand up and do this podcast, Namdi, people will die.
Yes.
Wow. He looked at me and come again?
I love it.
Wait. Did you just say people would die? And he almost looked at me like, she's lost the plot. She's lost the plot. Is she speaking figuratively? Is she speaking literally? Is that what she believes? But that is my core conviction. that I don't just show up because I want to show up. I show up because if I don't show up, there will be negative consequences in the lives of the people that I was sent to show up for. So, Evie, I want you to speak to just that responsibility that we carry to the lives of those that we have been sent to. What is that thing that drives somebody to do 50 episodes? And obviously, we're just talking about podcasts here. And what's that thing that drives people to write 10 books, 15 books? What's that thing that drives you to show up, speak for gold, 10 cohorts, keep going day after day? What is that thing that drives you?
Well, the thing that drives you is understanding that you were created not only for the world, not for yourself. You weren't created for God. You were created for God's intention, but you were created for use on earth. And you are carrying the solution that the world needs, that the scripture says the earth has been crying and groaning for that solution, for the manifestation of that solution. And that your job is that you were loaded with this greatness, this solution that is not needed in heaven where you're coming from. And that everything you were given is needed for the earth, and not for things, but for people. And therefore, in a way, until you offload and empty yourself, which is what life is, the process of living in full expression. That is the process of unburdening, unloading, offloading the greatness that you're carrying. That solution that you're carrying, that people will continue to suffer with their problems. Now, listen to this. If life is living in full expression, then death must be living without expression. In other words, life is not breathing. Breathing is not life. There are people who are breathing. Jesus said, let the dead go and bury the dead. How could the dead bury the dead if the dead were not moving? There are people who are dead because they are not fulfilling purpose. They are not living in full expression of their purpose. And your job through the fulfillment of your purpose is to help others through the problems that you're solving for them, get to the point where they begin to fulfill purpose. So, Tombra, you are absolutely bang on. There are people whose lives will start living from this podcast, from your first podcast, from your 10th podcast. But if you did not do the next podcast, there are people who will continue to exist in death.
Yes.
They are literally dead. Or they could be dying because they come to a place where they're believing something that the next podcast will address, and a challenge that they're going to. They just need that podcast to believe there is more for the people who believe they've reached the pinnacle of their success. I mean, think about it. There was a guy who was in the scriptures. He was said to be a rich man, and you have to remember that. Before I tell you that, Jesus said, be careful. Don't ever call anyone a fool, because if you call anyone a fool, you are risking going to hell. So in God, don't even call anybody a fool. Meanwhile, this rich man said to himself, I have arrived. My greatness, in fact, I am successful. Now, my soul, I have gotten and acquired all of these things. Now sit back and do nothing, but watch what it is that I've acquired. And God said, you fool. Tonight, your soul is required. Meaning the day you stop living for others and start living only for yourself, you are dead. And so, Tombra, you were totally right. The people who are dead but need to come alive by the reason of you doing the next thing you have to do.
I love it.
There are people who may be living, but they're almost just about to start existing, and they just need to hear that they were created for more. And so each and every one of us, we are the life that others will live, but we are carrying that life in us. Our job is to offload that in the things that we are created to do so that others can start to live. I love the way that Nelson Mandela said it, and I think he was quoting Marianne Wilkinson or something like that. And he said, you cannot, your smallness does not serve the world. He said, because in your light do others receive their permission to shine.
Their permission to shine.
Yeah, so people, your candle has to be lit because somebody needs the light on your candle to light their candle. So I think that it's critical that yes, each and every one of us must understand we have an obligation to do what it is that we were created to do, because other people's lives are dependent.
Love it. Thank you so much, FD. I want to speak to success. Often people feel they confuse success with in a particular thing to having found purpose, when sometimes it's not exactly the same. I heard you teach at one of the Speak for Gold, which is an awesome program that MD does, and I don't think it's around anymore. But I will let you speak towards the end as to what form people can engage and catch this fire that I caught. But you spoke to effective and defective success, where you build success and you get to the pinnacle and you realize that of a ladder, and then you realize that it was leaning on the wrong wall. And I remember hearing that for the first time. I thought, oh my goodness, this absolutely explains it, because I've been working up until then, had great jobs, working in investment banking, great opportunities. If you're looking at me and appraising me from the outside, you'd have thought I was doing, very, very successfully. But the truth is that in what I'm doing now, the remuneration doesn't compare in any way, shape, or form to what I used to do before. But even in this is where I feel the most successful. So I want you to speak to this, this nuance around success. What should people be doing to ensure that they are building their success correctly?
Well, this thing that you've shared is really amazing, because it speaks to the difference between doing things right and doing the right things. The fact that I'm doing things right doesn't mean I'm doing the right things. Many years ago, I went to speak at a bank, and this bank was in a precarious situation. It was a fast-growing bank. It was just 3 years old. 3 years in operation, and they had 3 branches. And with their 3 branches, they had just concluded a fantastic, phenomenal year, stretch year for them, where they made 20 billion naira. They had a 20 billion naira balance sheet, and then their CEO says to them, "We want 40 billion." And the guy said, "You're insane. How can we go from 20 billion to 40 billion? We are literally dying under pressure to do this, and now you want to?" And they literally were going to just throw in the towel. Everybody was going to walk away. And the executive director was speaking of the bank, was speaking to a friend of his and telling him the crisis they were going through in their bank. And the guy says, "Have you met Fela Durotoye before?" "No, who's Fela Durotoye?" He says, "Well, there's this guy. If he comes to your people and he speaks to them, I don't know, but I think that you need to bring him in." So they said, "Okay, can we come in?" And I come in. They tell me what the challenge is. I said, "Okay, no problem." So they bring most of their top guys and the middle level, everybody to the middle level, and they bring them together in a room. And I start to teach them how they're going to be able to do banking in a different way, because I've never been a banker, but I've been a customer all my life. So I started to teach them how they will win my heart as opposed to their banking cap. And by the time we were done, I had showed them in 3 hours how they were going to be able to get 46 billion. Remember, they wanted to do 40 billion. They said it was impossible. Now I had showed them 46 billion in 3 hours, and each and every one of them was going on and saying, "Hey, 46 billion, done deal, done deal, done deal." In the 10th month of that bank's operating year, the CEO calls me, well, sends me a text in one morning and says, we just looked through our third quarter results and we have already achieved your 46 billion target.
Oh, wow.
And now we're moving forward. They closed the year at 48.6 billion. This was the guys who said they couldn't do 40, but they were able to do 48.6. Why did I tell you that story? Because the next day after that, my intervention, the executive director calls me and says, I want to have a meeting with you. When I walk into the place where we're meeting, which was a restaurant, he looks at me and tears start falling down from his eyes. I'm like, what's going on? He says, you have destroyed my life. I said, me? I've never destroyed anybody's life before. How? He said, all my life I've been working as a banker, and I knew this wasn't what I was meant to be doing. But now I have seen what exactly I'm meant to be doing. What do you want me to do now? And then I laughed. I understood what he meant, that I was destroying a pathway that was leading to nowhere for him. Even though he had climbed that ladder pretty much to the top, he was the number 2 man in a bank, living in the best part of Nigeria, driving the nicest cars, flying business class. But he realized this wasn't what I was created for. And this guy is doing what I was created for. And so that was the moment in my understanding that I actually came to understand defective success. That defective success is what happens when you are doing what you were not created to do, even when you're doing it well. But you don't get a well done, my good and faithful servant, because you didn't do what you were created to do. Defective success is what happens when you send someone to go and buy you toothpaste and they come back with toothpick because they thought it was toothpick. And they've taken all the resources, they've taken the time, but they've come back with the wrong results. Defective success is what happens in an exam hall where someone prepared to answer the question about the life and times of John the Baptist, and the question says, right, critically analyze and completely elucidate on the life and times of our Lord Jesus Christ. And the guy looks at it and says, oh my God, I didn't prepare for that. So he says to the examiner, dear examiner, far be it from me to critically analyze and completely elucidate on the life and times of such a magnificent figure as our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Far be it from me. I would rather completely analyze and elucidate on the life and times of a mere mortal such as myself in the person of John the Baptist. To this end, please find hereunder, and begins to write down about John the Baptist, born to a barren womb, Elizabeth, and her husband Zachariah, and he goes on and speaks about how John the Baptist eats locust and honey and all of that, and still everybody knows the guy failed the exam. Why? Were his answers wrong? Did John the Baptist live in the wilderness? Yes. Did John the Baptist, Elizabeth's son? Yes. So why did he fail? Because it was not the question that was asked. Because in the end, listen to this, and this is the most powerful thing I hope I would have said today. The examiner cannot change the marking scheme to fit your answer. Because in the end, there was a marking scheme that was literally your purpose statement when you were leaving to come to the earth. That can't change. Nobody's going to ask how well you did the wrong thing. It's, did you do the right thing? Which is the reason why you can't go on living your breath, one more breath, without trying to discover, develop, deploy, and deliver purpose. You don't have tomorrow to do it. It has to start today. It has to happen today. You don't have tomorrow to do what you can do with purpose today. The gift of the morning sun is an opportunity for you to deliver what it is that you were created to do. When your time is done, then you're done. You don't die. You only go back to life before the body. That's what you have, life after the body. The question is, what is the quality of life you get? Because then you were given an assignment. When you go back, you're going to account for your assignment. And everything that is different from what you were created to do is defective success. And only the thing you were created to do is effective success. How do you know when you're living effectively? There's one gift more than anything else that is given to you. It's called fulfillment. Fulfillment is this thing that you have, you can't explain it. Nobody else can understand it. It's the thing that makes you take a pay cut, and yet you're feeling like you feel more than enough, because there's it's a void that only purpose can fill. Money can't fill it. Clothes can't fill it. Accolades can't fill it. Titles can't fill it. Only purpose and the fulfillment of purpose can fill it. And I think that the moment you start living with fulfillment, that's the moment when you really start living. That's the moment you start living. And I challenge everybody to say, live in full expression of the intention for your creation. The life on purpose is the only life worth living. Every other life is an existence, no matter how beautifully packaged it is. It's just existence.
Just existence. No one's going to ask you how well you did the wrong thing.
Does it matter that you're driving a nice car if you're going in the wrong direction? I mean, driving a nice car on the wrong pathway to where you're going doesn't matter. You're still driving a nice car. You're just not going to where you're going to.
Wow. So good. FD, I feel thankful. That's like, I feel like thanks is not even enough to convey, the state of my heart now. This was more than I could have ever dreamt of, more than I could have ever wished, more than I could have ever hoped. Just the depth and the level of truth, the level of mind-shifting revelations. Thank you. I know that lives have been changed, lives have been transformed, and someone who's listening to it, who's just encountered you for the first time, is thinking, like, how can I get into his ecosystem? How can I get more? This can't stop here. Tomba, you said something about, speak for gold. What is that? Can you give them something, please?
Well, let me quickly put this in. So Speak for Gold is one of the assignments on the journey of my life, where I was told to do something. And at one point in time, God said to me, "You're done." And I didn't even know what was next. And he says, "Now start this." And just to quickly put there that on your life's journey to fulfilling purpose, you would have different assignments. And some of your assignments are going to be timed, and you would have different assignments. Speak for Gold was an assignment that I had at a particular period. I gave my all to it. And that was the platform in which I was able to connect with a beautiful, amazing Tombra. But today, the assignment I've been given is to build a platform called the Gemstone Leadership Network, a platform that will connect people, leaders, and build leaders who will have the capacity not only to live excellently, but to be able to lead excellently. A platform where leaders can come in, all of us connected by the same values, all of us connected by the same values that have been defined by a personal creed. And I'll read that for you in a second. It's a platform where we learn, we connect, and then we access incredible opportunities that helps us collectively to become a force for good that brings change, positive change to our communities, to our countries, to our continent, to our world, to make it a better place. That is my assignment now, to build this community of leaders that will have the capacity to change our world. And these will be business leaders, leaders in the career space and professionals, leaders in the social impact space, there are people in governance and of course students, right? So we're building, and that platform is called Gemstone Leadership Network. Gemstone itself is an acronym for the purpose for the network, is to raise a generation that is empowered, motivated, and stirred to operate with natural excellence. And each of the ambassadors of this generation are people who have committed to 10 personal statements where they say, through this kind of creed that says,
The personal creed.
yes, so I am an ambassador of a generation that is empowered, motivated, and stirred to operate with natural excellence. And this is my personal creed. This day, I hereby commit to live a lifestyle of leadership and excellence and to do all within my power to transform my country to the most desirable nation to live in. And then there's a commitment, and I'm just going to read that in courtesy. But it says, I will make a positive impact on everyone I meet and everywhere I go. I'll be a solution provider and not a part of the problem to be solved. I'll be a role model worthy of emulation. I'll be my best in all I do, particularly the things I'm naturally good at. I will live, I would do the right thing at all times, regardless of who's doing the wrong thing. I will value time and make the best use of it. I will care and show respect to all through my words and my actions. I will consciously build a great legacy starting now, today, and every day. I'll live a life of integrity and honor. And I'll make my family, my nation, and my God proud. And what we do on the Gemstone Leadership Network is every week we take one value statement and we do a deep dive into it and teach ourselves, how do we lead according to that value statement? How do we express it? How do we turn it into a practical expression of what we can do? We connect every Sunday, right, at this thing that we call the Gemstone Connect, which is a weekly leadership summit. And I come in and I teach on something that helps you not only to live better or live excellently, but to lead excellently. So the first thing I would say is, if you'd like to join me, please do.
Please.
Every Sunday, I have this at 7 p.m. West African time, because I live in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, which is in West Africa, at 7 p.m. West African time, which I think is about the same time as the United
States. At the moment, yeah.
At the moment, right? And on every Sunday, you can join me on Zoom, but you can access that Zoom link through something called www.gemstoneng.net/connect. gemstoneng.net/connect.
I'm going to put all of that in the show notes as well. So
and if you can, please just join me, because as you do, then we would have the capacity to be able to just, you will come and you will meet people like Tombra, people who have committed, people like Tombra's daughter, who can recite the 10 values from by heart.
Yes, my daughters, two daughters, both daughters can recite it by heart.
Yes. I mean, so we do have forums for business leaders that help to see how we can help them foster business growth. We have forum for career professionals that help them to see how they can get career advancement and fast track their career. We have forums for leaders of NGOs and people, so that they can know how to scale up their social impact. We have forums for guys who are in government and the public service, so that they can know how to deliver good governance. We have forums for students, which is going to help them to be able to achieve academic excellence. And so if you come into that fold, oh my, wow, it will be an honor to walk with you on your path of greatness. I would have the privilege of mentoring you, and it will be such a joy to do so. So www.gemstoneng.net/connect, or if you would like to join the network itself, it's www.gemstoneng.net/join.
Okay, we'll put everything in, and also the details for the personal creed. If you send an email, you'll get it sent to you. So I'll put it
in fact, right now you can do it at www.gemstoneng.net/creed. CREED. So that's another way. It's just easier for simplicity's sake. Okay. One other thing is, if you feel like, look, I need clarity. Fela, I know I have a sense that there is more. I just need someone to talk to about, how can I birth this? How do I declutter everything I'm seeing? How do I make meaning and sense of my life in how do I clarify this thing that is in my head like a desire, but it's not yet well, I would say to you, you can have an exclusive clarity session,
which I have had, which changed my life. Yes, so I can attest to it. I did the group, Speak for Gold, but I wanted more, and I went in and I had a one-on-one session, and it was mind-blowing. A lot of things I'm doing today are connected directly to that session. So I just wanted to stop you there and attest. Sorry, continue.
And just say to you that we would not only be able to help you gain clarity, but to bring all of your life's moments, your life's time, your life's efforts, your team, everything into alignment,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're providing solutions that you were created to provide. And now we can be able to help you build a plan of action that you can execute, and we can support you through that plan to be able to deliver results that are truly going to deliver success, true success, not
Mm-hmm.
defective success for you. So if you would wish for to be like Tonga, and I would say be like Tonga, right?
Be like
Right?
me.
Please send me an email at
Mm-hmm.
Fela Durotoye at gemstoneng.net, or even just at my name at Gmail, Fela
Mm-hmm.
Durotoye at Gmail, and just say, Fela, please, I'd love you to help me. And we'll find, my team will immediately begin to find a way to help you schedule an exclusive executive session,
Social with you.
and we will be able to bring clarity into your mind, bring alignment, clarity around who you are, what you do, why you do it, um, you know, what the essence of your being is, who you are sent to, what your market is, whatever it is, however you can be able to discover, develop, deploy, and deliver on your purpose. And it will be an honor and a joy to work with you.
FD, thank you so, so, so much. I'm going to say this I'm going to try and do this in 2 minutes because I'm mindful of your time and I know you've got something else that you're going to, and we have overrun slightly. But, anyways, I attended Speak for Gold in September 2020. I finished in September 2020, and I was chosen as one of the people on the graduation day to give a thanks speech, just to celebrate the impact that you'd had and to just give back to you. Today, I want to read that speech back to you, just as a refresher, just as a just to tell you now, 2 years on, that every single word that was said then is even more meaningful now, right? So I said, my thank you speech goes as this. I said, the secret of men is in their stories. And over the last week, I was speaking on behalf of the entire court. We have become accustomed to hearing FD stories. And all the stories that struck me was the story FD shared about being a ladder, being a platform, and being a junction. FD said he queried God about it. Why was it a ladder? Why was it a junction? Why was it a platform? And God's response was to ask him the following questions. Would you rather write a book that sells 1 million copies, or have 1,000 people write books that sell 1 million copies each and claim it was because of you? And then you mentioned FD. You said God's response to you jokingly was that it depends on who you said to God, it gets the royalties, which you also said today. And next you said that God and said, laughed, and that was it. And that story stayed with me since. And I wondered, what would be the reward for someone who God refers to as a ladder? What does someone give to someone who is a ladder and a platform? And I pondered on this and I sought God for an answer. And when I did, God led me to the scripture in Psalm 127, verse 3-5. And he says, we, your children, are God's best gift to you. We, the FD tribe, are your generous legacy. Like arrows in the hands of warriors, so are we, the ones who you have poured your hearts into so vigorously. Oh, how blessed are you, Fela Durotoye, because you have your quivers full of us. Your enemies don't stand a chance against you, FD. We will join you to sweep them off of your doorstep. The truth is that when they crucified Jesus, they thought it was just a case of one man dying, not knowing that it would initiate a ripple effect that would be felt for generations. In like manner, perhaps even you, FD, you also thought that it was just a simple course you were doing when you were teaching us to find our voices. However, I have come to a place where I know that, what you did in helping us find our voices was actually amplifying yours as well. We, the FD tribe, have become your voice for hope, your voice for change, your voice for excellence, your voice for the new Nigeria, your voice for new Africa, your voice for global impact. We are now the arrows. If we go into different sectors of transportation, communication, finance, government, and politics, FD, you have unleashed arrows through us, and our promise is to you that you receive a dividend on your investment that is more than any royalty that you can spend in 10 lifetimes. The final thing I heard from God was a name to add to those names that he had given you personally: ladder, junction, and platform. God revealed to me that you're a gateway. that you will lead many into the paths of greatness, of purpose, and that everything you need to on this assignment He has given to you already. Thank you for holding up mirrors onto our faces so that we can see ourselves clearly as who we really are. We are lions. We are lions who have been empowered to do God's biddings here on earth. We were once meerkats, but now, in fact, we are lions. Thank you, FD, on behalf of Court 2 of Speak for Gold. You will hear our voice, FD. This is our promise to you. Thank you.
I mean, I remember that I was literally tearing up on that day, and I'm just struggling not to do so today. And isn't it amazing that truly, not only am I hearing your voice, but the world is hearing your voice. And I'm grateful to have been a gateway. I'm grateful to have been a junction. I'm grateful. Tombra. And what I feel today is indescribable. It's almost like I feel the joy of fulfillment of purpose, and I just feel the joy and the pride of just watching you do all you do and saying how proud I am of you. And I'm saying that, listen, someone who's listening to me today, honestly, you need to feel this. You need to feel this sense of fulfillment. Nothing else can beat it. Just you doing what you're created to do. And as you do it, you will see the people whose lives you've touched. And then you feel the other sense of pride that I feel today watching Tombra, and nothing else can beat that. No amount of money can pay for it. I'm just grateful. Thank you, Tombra, for living in full expression of your intent, of God's intention for your creation. Thank you for the podcast. Thank you for doing more than just what you could have at one point. And I pray that the grace for consistency, the grace for continuity, and the grace for completion will continue to rest upon you and everyone who's listening to this.
Amen. Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much, FD. I appreciate it. Thank you for being on the podcast.